Tim, thank you for joining me. Now I'm going to jump into a question and I'm going to hope I can pronounce this properly. So, differentiation in the context of marketing, why is it important?
Differentiation is a superpower, right? It's one of these things that has been knocking around marketing for donks, right? Since the beginning of marketing, whenever that was, right? But it's so kind of underutilized or done poorly or not done to the full degree, right? And it's such a superpower, such a thing that gives us, to use its technical term, a competitive advantage, right? And it's, whether you're looking at this from an agency perspective, like if you're a marketer or a freelancer or you're working for clients of this is a real kind of superpower, but it's half-assed a lot by a lot of people. And the job at the center of differentiation is to really understand and define why you're different to the other people who meet the same need, right? Why you're really different. And I emphasize the really different bit because a point of differentiation shouldn't be exchangeable with somebody else who does what you do, right? It's not good customer service. It's not good value for money. These are expectations, right? They don't do sod all for your difference, right? But it should be something that is truly yours, like a foundational principle of why people like you do work like that for the people you choose to serve, right? It needs to be a fundamental part, and it's built of some pretty simple ingredients, right? It's not a complicated thing to do properly once you delve into it, I don't reckon. But there's two big elements of differentiation. There's the points of difference, right? You can call them unique selling points if you want, but it's just a point of difference. And distinctiveness, right? So how you are, how memorable you are, how well you are what you do intentionally and strategically to be remembered, and then how you communicate it, like how you show up differently. It's the two biggest things. And there's a little toolbox that is really good under differentiation as well. We can delve into if you want. Do you want to delve into it?
Let's delve into it. But what are the benefits of doing that? Let's talk about it in the B2B context. I think it's a bit easier in B2C. You can have a personality, you can be a bit brash on social media, all that kind of stuff. From a B2B context, what benefit am I going to get from, carving out a niche or picking a particular, customer or sector in the market?
It comes back down to the competitive advantage piece, right? Like how to get people to choose you over another people, right? Because there's, again, looking at marketing and agency world, right? There's a bunch of agencies that do a bunch of
Don't just know
agency
it.
stuff. Like it's not, there's some good competition there. People love to create a marketing agency or be a marketing freelancer, right? There's not, as a buyer, we're not limited through choice, let's say, especially in the middle of the market, unless you do something massively specialized, right? It's super competitive. You'll know better than anybody, right? So differentiation is really understanding and building propositions and building communication and building kind of strategy around these reasons that people should choose you over somebody else, right? That's all it is, right? We're asking somebody to change their behavior. We're asking somebody to choose you over other people, right? And differentiation, like, is the core of that. It's pretty much everything of that, right? But there's how it works in B2B is if you think there's two types of truth in the world, right? Which is an unusual thing, but bear with it a second, right? There's when we look at marketing into B&B, there's two types of truth in all the world anyway. There's scientific fact, right? It's true. Like it's true because it's scientific fact, it's provable. The issue with this is this is very data driven. This is like scientific, this is provable, but it doesn't change behavior, right? It doesn't drive action. And people, us humans, are ridiculous, and we can choose to believe scientific fact or not. A bit like climate change, a bit like the earth is round, not flat. There's people that can opt in or out of choosing scientific fact to be true, right? But the real stuff, the compelling stuff, is a thing called subjective truth. And it's true because it happens to us, right? And this is where your differentiation comes from to a B2B brand, right? It's true because you've done it. It's not exchangeable, right? It's your lived experience. You can call it case studies, you can call it portfolio work, but how you talk about and how you show people or prove to people what you say is true is super important, right? And this comes down to like storytelling and visual identity, and down to things like how well and what questions you ask during the pitch process, during the proposal process, doing like how you communicate stuff. Because the more you understand about the opportunity or the pitch or the client, right, the easier it is for you to tell a story that's your subjective truth, that's your lived experience, that isn't exchangeable from one or another, right? So we need to think about it in terms of context and relevance and storytelling, not benefits and features of what we do. Like, it's good value for money, we turn it round quickly, we've got a nice fancy design computer. Do you know what I mean? It's that's not different. You should have good tools and you should be able to do your job on time. It's literally your job. Does that make? Do you know what I mean?
And from a practical standpoint, Tim, what are your favourite ways of achieving this? Is it by picking a particular sector within the market? Is it by having a really strong opinion on something? Is it the way you deliver it, the way you say it? Have you got any favourites?
Yeah, I think a combination of those things. But there's 4 tools, right, that are fundamental into how you communicate this stuff, right? And they're based on a lovely bit of work from an agency over in Silicon Valley called Duarte, by Nancy Duarte, and she's written a book called Illuminate. It's about a set of tools called the torchbearer's calling, right? And these are the 4 tools that she uses in there, right? So there's speeches, stories, ceremonies, and symbols, right? I'll explain each one of those, right? Speeches are short sentences or statements that are designed to educate and inform people, right? So they're concise, they're clear, they're really easily used, right? But you should be good at educating and knowing, like in your differentiation toolbox, in your brand toolbox, knowing what you want to educate and inform your audience about, your customers about, right? Maybe it's a perspective, maybe it's a point of view, maybe it's, like I say, something just from lived experience that you do, that you've done for similar people, that sort of thing. But you can't have them on its own. You then need storytelling, right? So story adds meaning to those things that we want to educate and inform about, right? So this is where you have a little anecdote, right? Or an origin story, or add context and meaning to these things, right? You might educate somebody on X is better than Y, and this is why I think so. This is what happened. We had a customer once who thought Y was better than X, but this is what happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, it adds meaning to these things. And then you have symbols. I'll do next. So symbols are the things that make you distinctive, right? Things that make you memorable. Things that make what you're saying stick out in their mind. And these can be visual identities, so things like your logo, things like the colours you use, things like anything that you see, right? Whether you've got a proposal document, whether you've got a certain slide style or image style. But these are the things that cement that meaning visually in our mind, because we humans remember visual stuff, right? And they can be things like slogans or sayings, like how you describe a thing. If you've got a little a little 4 or 5 word phrase that you say a lot about marketing or things, right? Use these sort of things. They're really compelling, right? People, they will stand you out because nobody else will use these little phrases, right? And then finally, there's ceremonies, which is a fancy word because it's an American twaddle sort of thing. But ceremonies are the actions and the behaviours we do on repeat, right? So these are not written, they're not auditory, they're behaviours and actions that we do. So in your biz dev process, in your pitch process, for example, you will go through the same behaviours and stages pretty much, whether or not you've done this intentionally or whether it's just intuitive because you've been doing it for donkey's years now, right? But the ceremonies prove what you say is true, right? So it might be how do you onboard people, how you pitch online over Zoom, how you pitch in person, how you end a pitch, how you follow up, how you introduce yourself, how you do a discovery meeting. Like these are all like biz devy things, right? But you should own those. They should be super intentionable and super kind of drilled down into doing that sort of thing, because everybody does some kind of client discovery or briefing session. Like in marketing, everybody does it, but how you do yours is your way, right? It's differentiation should be how we do everything, if that makes sense.
No, 100%, 100%. And we're on a bit of a journey now to, as you quite rightly said, Tim. You're not spoilt for choice when it comes to agencies. So yeah, and I think particularly in B2B world and agencies, a lot of agencies opt to go down a particular sector, or they target an area of the market that they can specialize in, so they've got that competitive advantage, and that's
Yeah.
probably the route that we're looking to go down. But then you've got the whole view of it. SEO is changing, PPC is changing, AI. Agencies are leaning into it. Agencies are leaning away from it. There's lots of ways you can do it now. I think there's a real opportunity out there at the moment to put your flag in the ground and say, this is who we are and this is the direction we're going to lean into, and be bold with it.
It speaks to effectiveness, right? Marketing effectiveness is a thing. There's no wrong answer, like to what vertical market you want to go after. There's no wrong answer to that, right? There's no wrong answer to what products or services you want to lean into or offer or lead with or specialize in. There's no wrong answer, right? There's not even a wrong answer to that old debate of which is better in marketing, generalism or specialism, right? There isn't. There isn't a truth. There isn't a right answer. But what our jobs are as marketing leaders, as people who run these businesses and have a duty of responsibility to our staff and the people we choose to serve, is to do it well, right? To do it effectively. And that's where stuff like differentiation and these tools come from, and some of the robust marketing theories that we know that are good over time. Like it's how well we do these things, right? We've got to be brave enough to do stuff well and not dilute our position, not dilute what we believe in, right? It takes a bit of brave creativity because it's easy to be in the middle, right? It's hard to stand out on the edge and have a position and be known for something, right? It's difficult because we're in a system and in an industry where it's easy to be in the middle with everybody else and to be less
I think
differentiated.
a lot of the people I speak to who are going through that change from being very general to being a bit more different and a bit more specialized is, the age-old thing I hear is, well, what about all these inquiries and leads that I get now? If we then, be very different over here, we're only going to appeal to quite a small group over here that resonate. But actually, my response to that is always, yeah, but all the inquiries and leads you get now, you might have a 40%, 30% strike rate on them because 70% of them don't actually resonate, or there's someone better out there for them. But actually, if you only get a smaller amount of leads over here, but because those have come to you, they clearly resonate very heavily with your point of view, your stance, your point of difference. Therefore, your strike rate might be, more 70, 80%. So you can afford to get less leads, less sales, but actually the quality of that is much greater.
That's a perfect thing, right? And I bang on about a phrase. One of the things I say a lot is fewer, better everything, right? The route to growth is often pitched as doing more stuff, right? But you will know. I bet in your agency world better than me. But there's time when you have not much capacity in the studio, right? And things are a bit of a shit show. Sorry if I can't swear on this. You can edit that out later. But there's right, things that we as people, we as organisations, we as companies, don't often perform our best at maximum capacity. Although you've got all these hustle cultures that give 120% and blah blah blah, right? And it's not true, right? There's been millions of studies that prove that around it's between 60 and 80% capacity is our optimal performance, right? So being choosy and differentiation, right, it allows you to pick fewer, better clients, right? And you in the marketing world get to define what better is, right? Is better a longer project cycle? Is it more projects over a year with the same customer? Is it more breadth of clients? Is it more specialism in an industry? But when we focus on fewer, better things, right? When we focus the important stuff in our organisation, time, money, and energy, right, at pointing at these things, where we choose to apply our time, money, and energy is towards fewer, better things. We can do good stuff like charge more, like increase the maximization or the lifetime value of our customers, which is a million miles away from cost of acquisition and all that stuff that we think around, right? This is where real growth comes from. This is where brand value and market share and share of voice and credibility and reputation and all this good stuff comes from. This fewer, better everything's, right? This fewer, better clients. This strive to always be trying to do better work and improve ourselves.
Fewer, better, everything. I'm going to steal that.
Mate, you can have it.
That's a motto. That's a motto. Now, well, look, yeah. I mean, blimey, I could talk about that all day. And there's lots of tools in which we can use to go on that journey. But talking of tools,
Yeah.
one segment on this show is called "What's in Your Toolbox." Now, I talk to lots of really skilled, really busy marketers very often, and they've all got a different suite of tools they use in order to get their job done, be productive, stay on top of all the stuff they've got to stay on top of. So, what do you use, Tim? It doesn't necessarily have to be a piece of SaaS or a piece of software. It could be a way of thinking about stuff. It could even be a pen and paper. But I'm always really interested to know what helps you stay productive, what helps you stay top of your game.
Do you know what? Like, there's some really obvious ones like Canva, just because I don't have a discernible Photoshop bone in my body, right? Canva is super useful for people like me to make it look like I kind of know what I'm doing, although I don't. Canva knows. And it helps making kind of slides super legible, which I'm also terrible at, right? It's a good, useful tool, but it not mind-blowing for your people, but I've actually discovered some interesting tools, let's say this year, right, in recent times, that are proper challenging me to do stuff differently and better, right? So the first one is Notebook LM. I don't know if you've come across Notebook LM yet.
I have, yeah.
Mate, mind-blowing, right? So I do a lot of learning and development, and I teach on some exec education stuff at unis, right? And as part of that world, there's a lot of kind of reports or trend surveys or impact reports, that sort of stuff that are, you know, I'm 47, I haven't got time to wade through 200 pages of academic material. But you whack it in Notebook LM and it produces a pretty good, quite American podcast, right? Which is super useful for me. Like, and it constills, and I am mind blown to how good that is, if I'm perfectly honest, like as a thing. So that is definitely changing the amount of research and preparation and other sources I can consume to go into the teaching, because I can condense it into a 20-minute podcast. I did one this morning before this call. Actually, a thing has come out called the World 50 or the Global 50, which is the 50 biggest trends that are impacting people at the moment, and it's a lumpy bit of kit, but it turned it into a 29-minute podcast, and it was ace.
Is that publishable, or is that just for your
Yeah,
intern?
you can share it. You can share it internally. I think there is a share button on there. I've not tried to share it publicly, but I have played them in classrooms before that I've been teaching in, or at least snippets of them to prove that it's true. Another thing along that AI line. Now we probably won't go down this AI rabbit hole, right? But I'm not a big fan of shortcuts. Right, and I think AI gives us a too easy option to have a shortcut. And I think doing good work and doing this better work, like, you need to do the work, right? There's not often a shortcut that I've seen in my life that works particularly well. But Claude.ai is my chosen, I don't know, AI work buddy.
Yeah.
I don't know what you refer to them. And I really enjoy chatting to him. Like, he's good. Like, the reasons, like, I've used ChatGPT and Gemini and stuff, and sometimes they seem a bit lazy in why they're deciding stuff. If this is a weird conversation to have about a bit of kit, but it seems a bit lazy. But Claude is really kind of fastidious and really cites the reasons behind the choices that they make, right? Which is useful, because if I'm going to put my reputation, put my difference, right, on using this sort of stuff, I want to know that it's true, right? I want to be able to answer questions about it and not just trust it implicitly. So those two have been good, but something that I'm seeing that is really cool as well is, and I'm super enjoying being a consumer of, is Substack.
Okay.
As a platform. It was born like it's a chargeable
Subscription.
email subscription, but long form content. But
Right, yeah.
it's I've come off Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram a long time ago. I only have LinkedIn because I don't have a website, so I literally do need a public face somewhere or other. So LinkedIn is that for me. But in terms of really good content and really like absorbable and consumable, Substack is doing amazing, and it's grown 25% this year apparently. And you can tell it's getting popular because now quite a lot of the content on Substack is about how well to do Substack. A bit like LinkedIn content is now mainly about how well to do LinkedIn content. It's just a sign of success of these online platforms. But like, there's some beautiful bits of content on Substack, and it's probably the way, apart from podcasts, that I consume the most.
That's interesting. Just pivoting back to our man Claude for a moment.
Yeah.
What are some use cases there? I ask this quite a lot. I ask people what are they using their chosen AI robot for?
So again, it to me it comes down to, I don't know how to explain it, robustness maybe, or again, effectiveness of doing stuff well, right? So I will write some cockamamie words like I usually do, and like stick it in there. And I don't want them to change the way I write, right? I write like I speak, so it's not a surprise when people have to listen to me in a room, right? Because I sound the same. Like, I haven't got some fancy writing tool. I need it to sound like me, right? I need it to be, I hate this word, authentic. Oh, I throw up a little bit in my mouth then. But like, Claude makes me robust, right? So I will put this in and I won't ask for him to edit or suggestions or anything like that, but I'll ask them to pick 4 ways, right, that this could be conceived as wrong or challenging for somebody, right? And they'll go, actually, I'm not sure this is true. And you can prove, like, you can have that debate instead of people just reading it and going, well, that was bullshit, and like twaddling off somewhere else, right? I can, it makes it robust, right? Because I like to poke the box, right? I think change happens at the edges a bit. Like the stuff that I teach is pretty standard stuff, but hopefully with a bit of spicy angle to it, not in the sexy way, but in the energy way, right? Like I teach, for example, I teach business model canvassing, which is a pretty normal thing, right? It's a pretty good thing, but I do it with high growth quotes, right? So it's really difficult to fill the stuff in the boxes, right? Because doing the difficult work is much more effective in the end. But I use Claude like that to ask me questions, like challenge me on it. I don't want to know, like I think it's true, but if I think it's true when I'm putting it out there, I want to be ready for if people disagree with me. Because like content, especially today, and especially talking about differentiation like we did earlier in this chat, right? Content should be good enough to polarize people. I don't want to appeal to everybody. I don't want it to be that everybody thinks it's all right. I want people to go, oh, I don't know, like it's a bit, I'm not sure I agree with everything, but I want that conversation. Like I want it to challenge people. If they want just normal content, there's 43 million bits of it on the search engine of your choice.
I
Anyway,
agree.
right?
It's exactly how I use my AI. It's to understand how it's going to be received,
Yeah,
and just open my eyes up to the perception of that, and
yeah.
maybe make some changes. Maybe I don't. Maybe I want it to be polarized, as you said.
Yeah, I think that's the role of AI. I think it ought to try and make us better. I don't want it to do stuff for me by any stretch. I'm not, I create very little content. I may as well properly do it when I do it, when I choose to do it, right? Like it's but like I say, make it robust, like challenge my thinking. Like if the AI finds some bits that goes, oh, that's a bit, that's a very strong position. I'm like, ace, that's good enough then. Do you know what I mean? Like if they're doing it, but as long as it's not, as long as it's total sense checking. Because sometimes I write about, for example, I put a post out on LinkedIn yesterday, which is my first in donks, right? Called Question Everything. Right, because I think it's the time in this world to question everything. We won't go down that loop. People can find it if they need it. But it's writing about stuff that could happen in the future. So I don't know if it's true. Like I ain't got a crystal ball. I just reckon. Right, this is the way I see things going. Right, so in theory, anything looking forward or forecasting is either going to be lucky or wrong. But that's fine.
Totally.
I think people like you need to story tell about the future, about a paint a picture of what a future possible could be, because otherwise people won't know it's even there, and they just toddle along in the middle a bit.
And that's forecasting future states is we often get asked to, well, what's it going to do for us? And as you quite rightly said, we can use all the data and the data points we've got that precede us and all previous client data and take all that into consideration. But the bottom line is it's going to be either lucky or wrong.
Mate, and in marketing stuff, that is 100% true, right? Like there's sometimes I remember from my agency days, I had to stand in front of clients and go, I don't know what the right answer is. You're asking me for the answer to a question that we haven't put out there. We haven't done the work. I know what work I reckon we should do this work over the next year, right? I don't know if it'll work or not. I haven't done it. I've done similar work and I've thought about it a lot, and my experience and knowledge and all that sort of stuff says it's probably the right work to do. But what it will do for you, I don't know, mate. Like we haven't done it. But I'm willing to put the reputation and the point of difference on knowing that this is the work we should do.
Yeah, well, welcome to my world. And as you say, every year that goes on, you get slightly more confident in your predictions, and that's all you can do, isn't it? Which is why experience is so valuable. Because if you've done something 50 times before and been successful 49 times, got a pretty good chance of it being successful again. But if you've only done it 5 times, maybe it worked once, then yeah.
And that links back to what we were chatting about differentiation and in this your subjective truth, right? Your lived experience. Like, it's a superpower, man. Like, because nobody can argue with it. You go, well, we did this and it happened before. They can't go, no, you didn't. You go, well, what? Yes, we did. Like, it's undeniable, right? And we should use those things. We should have those tools because they're super powerful, man. If you can stand in front of somebody like a client and talk about that thing, knowing that they can't say no or prove it wrong, that's amazing. What a great pitch, right?
100%. I mean, I've given a lot of forecasts and a lot of future states in my life, and maybe been overly optimistic in some occasions, shall we say? But they're my failures, and you learn from them, and you learn over time. To be, if you're gonna have to do it, try and be as realistic as possible, and try and use your lived experience as much as possible. Um,
Mate, I think,
Talking of failures, I mean,
yeah.
the next. I'm a big believer in failures. I know Tim has failed a lot of times.
Oh yeah.
What about a time you failed and what you learned from it? And bonus points for it being funny.
Oh lordy, I've been in this marketing game since the 90s, dude. So I
Like
have mainly mishaps.
pre-internet?
Pre-internet, pre-phones. Do you remember pre-phone? Well, you won't know pre-phones. You're all young, but like pre-phones. But some spring to mind that were related, like proper errors. Like back in the day when things were printed, right, and we cut and uneditable. Right, there has been some proper faux pas. Like, I remember putting the wrong date on flyers for an event and hundreds of people rolling up on the wrong day. That was a good one. Like proper mistakes, mistakes that cost people time and money, sort of things. But I can't remember specific examples. But I used to be a big HubSpotter and Infusionsoft person back in the agency days, and I'm damn sure there's been the classic email personalization issues because some comedy salesperson thought it'd be great to put funny names in like Mr. Hugh Jick and stuff like into my emails, which has gone out to people addressing people as large body parts when they're not. That sort of stuff is proper good. Like, there's always, you can look back on it as a guy who doesn't practice client work particularly anymore, mainly because of that rubbishness, if I'm honest. But there's been a lot of little errors, but the print ones, man, the ones that you can't take back, that are in magazines and live forever.
Yeah. I was going to say, I sort of take the digital world that I'm in for granted, I suppose. It's quite easy to amend an error, isn't it? Or recall something, or
Yeah.
even follow up and say, I'm sorry, I made an error. But in a print world, if you've done 20,000 runs of a print and you've made an error,
I remember
costly.
doing it. I used to work for. There used to be a record label, a progressive house label called Renaissance in Nottingham. In fact, it's still there. But they also used to have a nightclub in Nottingham, and that date error was one of those. I pulled into work of an evening of a Tuesday evening, which we weren't open, and there were like, I turned the corner of the street, and there was like reams of people down the hill. I was like, what's going on? I didn't think we were open tonight.
I didn't
And
know
that's
that.
and I walk past everybody, and people are holding the flyers because it gets you some money off in them days. And I was like, what's going on? You're all very early for this thing. And they went, no, it opens like in an hour. And we're like, no, tomorrow. And they're like, no, today. And we're like, oh, shit. Do you know what? Like, it was great. I love going in the door and going, has anybody looked at the security camera? And they're like, no, we haven't. No. I'm like, there's like 300 people outside.
Did
Are
you
we
blag
going to
it?
open the doors, or just who's going to tell them to go away?
Yeah, I say, did you blag it or did you tell them to go away?
We opened one of the rooms and put a house thingy on, but a bunch of people still came back the next day. It wasn't too bad,
Too
but
bad.
interesting to explain to the boss is more what it was.
I bet. And last but certainly not least, Tim, we're going to put in room 301. So room 301, if you don't know, or if a listener of ours doesn't know, it's a place where we put stuff in marketing that we don't like. We're not going to see it again. We're locking the door. We're going to swallow the key. So what winds you up about the marketing sphere. And you've been here since the 90s, Tim, so I'm sure there's a lot.
So I'm going to definitely wear my old grumpy marketing hat for this one, right? And it might be unpopular, but I've seen over the years that marketing people love to create a label, right, about the work that they do. So I've got two of these labels to put in. The first one is content marketing. I've been in this game for over 25 years and I have never seen a piece of marketing without content in it. It's just marketing. Like, it's not content marketing, it's marketing. You can't market without content in it. Like, stop creating stupid labels, right? And another one is quite recent and something I've not, like, definitely before my time, but performance marketing. Like, as opposed to what? Rubbish marketing? Of course it's performance marketing. It's what it's for. Like, stop inventing pointless labels and be happy with just doing good marketing would be in my thing on. And I've got another one. If we could stick any content in any form from Donald Trump in there too, that'd be amazing.
Lock the door on that one, eh?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, Tim, I really appreciate you jumping on. I'm to catch up as well. We go back probably the best part of 10 years.
Yeah. It's been a while.
So it's awesome to catch up again. Tim, LinkedIn presumably, but if anyone wants to know more about you, where should they go? What do you do? What's your day-to-day looking like now, Tim?
My day-to-day is much less doing dangerous client marketing work and teaching or talking about it. So I'm lucky enough to partner with a couple of unis and teach all this good marketing stuff in the exec ed level. They don't let me on undergrads, with this opinion, but I do get to work with the grown-ups, which is good. And I also design and deliver these kind of workshops and things for people, but it's much more talking about what good marketing is and trying to point all that creativity and experience at stuff that will change the world for better, like climate change and sustainability and positive, societal stuff. I kind of got to be in my bonnet about doing good storytelling, good brand, good differentiation and stuff for them guys now. But yeah, LinkedIn is the only social network I now inhabit. So there or nowhere.
Wicked. And do you do any support? Any businesses out there looking for support on how to differentiate yourself? Is that something you're open to? Or?
Mate, I'm always happy to have a conversation. I'm always happy to talk about people. I have points of view and perspective from these 25 years that hopefully will allow you to do better work down the line. So reach out. Let's have a chat if there's anything in it. Otherwise, I just like a good conversation. I don't have social media now, so I have real life conversations. Crazy days, mate. Crazy days.
Excellent. Tim, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you again soon.